weeks ago. That quarter.
Check.
So it's good to go whenever y'all are ready for it. Someone should have everybody else. Our speakers here, so everyone's watching video. Get on sugar high for the meeting. how you doing?
All right, how are you?
Pretty good. I don't know if you want to watch the video, but there's video of swarms going on.
Don't want to put the website on.
Did you not get an email? You look for web address, make sure that's the right email. Are you Gmail?
Yeah.
It's probably most.
They're all hiding in the kitchen.
Yes. Still gets back here. So, you- So, Johnston. Yes, but you go to the. There. There's some things, space right there. When he comes back, we'll check it out. But later, falls in the truck. Go on, it's on. It's
actually in Lake Free. Actually, it's not. It's just what he's doing. Well, during the summer, he's not. So it just, it's not possible in the summer. Just staying busy. He's getting ready for season to start. Yeah, we saw that. They won't get it. Yeah, I'm sure. It's not like we haven't seen a few swarms. Yeah, I don't think, are you coming next month? I won't be here. Well, yeah.
Hello. You have a check that I need to fill out? What? Someone called me, said my membership check. Hey, how are you? Some of them don't have signed in place.
Because usually they do it. All based on that recent experience.
This is the, what they're proposing.
Based on this.
Please show this. Okay. All you have to do is take a picture of those with your phone, and it will take you to necessary information like coalition, beach, our site, looks in 5 counties.
Oh, yeah, what is this?
Law, you have right to hide. It's also that one respect.
Wilson County.
Because their little sign is who am I expecting, which is a dollar.
States, because that's.
There is really
small. Ever since I said, I do. Like I have my eyes laser, but I can only see it far away.
yes, it's hard to see.
That's all I can think of. At least on the fix. Distance vision, and I'm old enough now that I need to wear my focals. And I'm struggling with that. I hate it, so like I said, so now it's just one glasses and I can just buy off the camera. But it's still has this, you get too close and start to so I have to have it. Still get most of it.
Everybody wants to hold it. There was something going on this big. The board said. Yes, I do.
The back of my arms get cold like this. Oh, sorry. So say we're not puppy.
I don't see this photo.
Oh, my fingers are ice cold. Probably they have the thermostat right in the main way of the sun. Probably. It's like, this sounds bad, but it's what they honestly did. We had our concrete place for the stairs about 3 years ago. And they were supposed to put in another vent or exhaust, so you have the right number of registers. What they did is they enlarged the one in the bathroom. It shoots raw hot air right out here. When you're on the toilet. And I asked them, what do you start with this? I never got it.
I don't notice.
I'm sorry, you did it, right?
Yeah.
Well, ours is a triangle. And they did not use nest, they didn't use nest, so we finally corrected. Well, that's one of that one was. Yeah, no, it's Amazon. Amazon wants to own the world with Microsoft. Yes, they do. So one of my arguments about the cloud, if I wanted everybody to know everything, I put stuff in the cloud.
IBM programmer. In fact, I'm always cussing Windows 11. 8 years was mistakes at Microsoft. You are, I know how to make it work. He rolls his eyes and comes in.
We'll see how they work. But further. So, I'm finding out.
It tracks you like Big Brother. Well, it's a slide that says Johnston County, Texas, going to the Five Counties Beekeepers Association.
I just did the website. I said I tried one.
Yep.
That's all.
That's the New York State aviary stuff. Haven't seen it. Bee space, bee cycles. They've done an effective flat.
Yeah, we might be Do we have a good choice? I can go ahead with the training. We'll be right back. Someone wins it.
Okay, let's get started this evening. We could. The people that attended the video, did you all like that? Was it worth doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wish we had storms like that, always, ground level.
That's a Ohio, Indiana type thing, I think. Okay, Seth, is there a volume on this? Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Do we have any new members here tonight? Okay. Okay. Just start and tell us a little bit about yourself, how many hives you have or how many you have and what experience.
Hi, my name is Jim Polk. I'm a master gardener here in Johnston County, and I've got 2 hives at the moment, and lots of pollinator plants. In fact, to some of you, I came here with my wife and we gave a brief presentation on pollinator plants, all the different varieties and so forth, because that's one of our mantras that the master gardeners do to spread the news. So I enjoy being here. Look forward to learning a lot from you all, and thank you for having me. Anya Mcguirk, I have a hive
My name's Jamie Stanley. I don't have to be right now. I'll take the class with Chris. I'll get some spring here in Smithfield, and we're looking forward to getting some bees. We got a little farm out on Rock Road. Use them for pollination and get money.
Okay. This evening we handed out little cards. Those cards on the front, the first QR code is for the Healthy Honeybee Coalition decision tree on mite treatments. It's a real good tool. The second QR code is for the Driftwatch Bee Check website where you can register your hives, prevent spraying or help try to prevent it. And then on the inside is State Beekeepers QR code how you can reach them. The next thing that's in there is your bee numbers that you need to know. And on the back side are 3 clubs that typically work together, 5 counties, Johnston County and Wilson County. So that's there for you all. You're welcome to play with it, especially that decision tree. It'll help you make the decision how to treat for mites, because you will have to treat for mites, one form or another. So, okay, I'm going to let Terry Richards introduce our speaker tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Tonight, we are going to be hearing from Anya Mcguirk. She is from the Five Counties Beekeeping Organization. She has a PhD in agricultural economics from Cornell and has been beekeeping for about 7 or 8 years after she retired as a data scientist from SAS. You may wonder, how does the data scientist work with beekeeping? Well, we're going to learn what she does with her data science skills and monitoring hives. So, Anya.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very passionate about this topic, and you'll probably be able to tell. And I just ate a bag of M&Ms, which probably wasn't a great idea. So I might be jumping around more than normal. Anyway, so this is actually, we're going to talk about lessons learned from my apiary as well as the 5 county apiary. We have a pretty big apiary. I think we have 20 hives right now. And we won the GAP award, the golden, what is it? I forget. From NCSBA. Basically, we were one of the top club, maybe tied with somebody the year we won. I can't really remember, but you can apply for a grant. So we applied for a $700 grant and bought some sensors. So you're going to hear about what we're learning through that. But I love the saying, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. And that's what I believe. You know, there's so many folk stories, wives' tales about bees in particular. And I always like, really? Who studied that? Who figured that out? So I always have to prove it to myself by measuring something. So anyway, sensors, everybody knows. I'm going to go through pretty quickly the hardware aspect of it because I really don't know much about it. They're little gizmos you stick in your hives that can measure things, right? And the cool thing about sensors is they're getting smarter, smaller, and cheaper. And so you're seeing them used more and more in more and more industries. They're measuring all kinds of things. In your home, I mean, everywhere, you got sensors, right? Pinging at you, telling you something's going wrong. What's really cool is while I was at SAS, I worked in the Internet of Things division, and we were developing algorithms right on the sensors. So they're like an inch by an inch, and now you can actually do all kinds of math on the sensors so that you can warn people in real time. So it's really amazing the things you can do. So you're starting to see them everywhere, and in beekeeping even, more and more people are getting into sensors as they get cheaper. But for me, collecting data, that's sort of the easy part. Easy for somebody else to develop the gadgets, right? But the hard part is, the real questions are, what can we learn from it? And are the learnings useful? Well, can we learn from it, I guess, first, and then what do we learn? Are the learnings useful? And really, to some extent, we don't even know what we're gonna learn because nobody has been measuring the temperature of the sensor every minute in the hive all day long. So who knows what we're gonna learn? So that's basically what I do in my retirement. I have some of the software that SAS made available to me, and I'm collecting data from my hives in real time. And I'm looking at why did that happen? What's going on? And so today we're gonna talk about some of the things we've been learning. And really, I'm just going to talk about temperature and weight. Those are the two sensors that we're using. This is a temperature sensor from Broodminder. And really, the sensor is just this green part. And this is just a way to keep it on the frame. So I just put those sensors in the middle of every one of our hives at 5 Counties Beekeepers and in my home, hoping that the brood nest is probably going to be in the middle of a hive. And I typically will put them, if I have 2 brood boxes on both boxes, sometimes only one, depending on how many sensors I have. So we're going to talk about what I've learned by monitoring those sensors. We also have scales under the hives. And this is an example of a scale at my house. This is an old Solution B scale that I've added a new circuit board so that it can hook up to the Broodminder system. At 5CBA, we actually have real-time data now. This is what we got from the GAP project. If you can believe it, this little thing, which is called a thingy, at Thingy 91, we just put it in the middle of the yard, and it's listening to those temperature sensors. Those temperature sensors are sending Bluetooth signals all the time. That little thingy is picking it up and sending it into the cloud. And then the data are being analyzed, and if something weird is happening to your temperature, you can actually get a text message saying, Alice, I have human names on my hives. Alice had a temperature event. So I go outside and look to see what Alice is doing to see why she had a temperature event. So it's really cool. You have real-time warnings on temperature. This is a picture of our 5CBA apiary. And our thingy is in this little box, and we have a solar panel to it, so that when the batteries start running low, they'll recharge it. And really, placement is key. We had to walk around the yard, make sure it could hear all of the sensors. At my home, Happy Hunting Hills, Triple H, I have what we call a sub hub. I don't even know what it does. I don't know. It listens to the Bluetooth signals coming from my hives. And then I have an old cell phone on my porch. So 60 feet away, I have an old cell phone on my porch, which is hearing the sub hub, and then sending it into my Wi-Fi, because my Wi-Fi is a little too far away from the beehives. So I'm getting real-time data too. And it was awesome during COVID, right? I was working from home, and I'd get a buzz on I'd run out there, and I'd see a swarm hitting the trees. I caught so many swarms. It was amazing. So the sensors pay for themselves easily one season. So anyway, the bottom line is what happens is the data go directly to the cloud into my Broodminder, and we get real-time warnings, as I said, on temperature events. And we also get daily emails. Every morning I get a new email saying what happened in my apiary. And it tells me if the weight changed on anybody more than expected, it went up or down. And it'll tell you things like we suspect a robbing event, or your batteries are getting low, weight losses, big changes in temperatures. So you get all kinds of, and you can actually set the settings, tell them what you want to hear about and what cutoffs you want. Like it'll tell me that they think a honey flow is on if I get more than 2 pounds in a day, something like that. And even though the data go directly to the cloud, it's never perfect. So a lot of times there'll be blips and little gaps in the data, so I'll have to sync. I have my iPhone, not my iPhone, I have a Samsung, but any kind of cell phone. You go out and you can sync the data with your phone, so it'll pick up all the data that missed getting sent up to the cloud. And really, that's all hardware stuff. But what I'm interested in is what can we learn from the sensors. So the first thing you can learn a lot about is their brood production. Bees maintain a hive temperature between 92 and 98 if the bees are raising brood. It's typically 95 plus or minus. And so with the temperature sensor right in the middle of the hive, they usually have brood right around the middle, then you can just see that temperature and see whether they're in the brood zone or not. So you can see whether they have brood. And you can also see whether it's like a steady temperature. If it's a steady temperature, you know they're thermoregulated. There's a lot of bees in there. They must have a lot of brood and they're strong hive, and they keep it very flat. But if it's a weaker hive, you'll see some fluctuation, but it'll be around 95. So because temperature is measuring, basically, you get an indication of brood production. You can quickly see when you have a queen issue, especially prime time, right? In the middle of the season, middle of the spring, summer, all of a sudden the temperature will be in the brood zone, all of a sudden it'll start dropping down below the brood zone. So you're like, wait a minute, something happened, right? So you can go in and check. And I'll show you lots of examples of this. Swarm detection, I've already mentioned this. When the swarm leaves the hive, the temperature actually goes up around 2 degrees, sometimes even higher. It just spikes up as they're getting ready to go out the door. And that's, Broodminder has an algorithm that detects that. And it's not 100%, I'm trying to help them refine the algorithm a little bit. You do get some false warnings that you have an event and it's not a swarm, but they're working on it. So you can learn about the size of your colony, how well they're thermoregulating, as I said. Also robbing events, if you just have a temperature sensor, typically the temperature will also spike up. There's a lot of activity, you know, all of a sudden they're being invaded by bees. Things get hot inside the box. And in terms of hive beetles, I'm trying to figure out if there's, I love it when people in our apiary or in our apiary, colonies in our apiary have too many hive beetles, and then I can look at the data. Do I see it? What's the signal? So I'm still trying to figure out if I can learn about what's happening regarding hive beetles. And bears, we've had, not in our apiary, but I've seen examples of the temperature will just completely drop out, go way off, because basically the bears throw everything around, right? So there's no more thermoregulating going on. Anyway, the bottom line is we're still learning what we can learn. So it's kind of fun. I love being able to study the data. So I'm going to show you a bunch of really cool pictures. Oh, things to remember. Yeah. So the scale is underneath the hive. So you have to remember that we're really measuring everything, right? So it's got bees, brood, we have boxes, we have frames, how many resources. When it rains, it changes the temperature. So the weight is going to change when lots of different things change. So it makes it a little hard to decipher, but not too hard. And the temperature sensor, same thing. We typically compare the temperature inside the box to the ambient temperature outside. Is it the same? If it's the same, then there's probably no bees in the box. Is it different? If they're thermoregulating, there's probably bees in the box. If it's between 92 and 98, there's probably brood in the box. But how warm things, how high the temperature gets depends on the hive configuration. If you have a single box, you get a very different temperature signature than you do if you have a double beak. If you have an insulated hive, you get a very different temperature signal. So these are just things that you need to keep in mind. So there's no look for this signal and it means this. That doesn't work because it really depends on the configuration of your hives. Anyway, so now I'm going to show you some examples of the things you can learn. So hopefully you can still hear me. So this is a graph from 2022 to 2023, starting in September and ending in March. This is temperature. So the blue is the actual temperature outside, right? Winter time it gets cold. So that's the outside temperature. The red or pink maybe is the lower brood box. So I have a lower brood box and an upper brood box. The pink temperature is the temperature of the lower brood box. And then you can see in November, I actually added second sensor in my upper brood box. So the yellow is the upper brood temperature. So look at September. Oh, I don't know if you can see this gray. It's a light gray. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So that's the brood zone. So if the temperature is in that's 92 to 98 is that temperature. So if you look along here, this is temperature, right? 92 to 98 is that gray band. So you want the temperature to be there. So in this graph, what you see in September, this hive, they're doing pretty well. They got a lot of brood. They're keeping it in the brood zone. The lower brood box, that's the temperature of the lower brood box. And there's the outside temperature. Starting mid-September, starts to drop down. The queen is already starting to slow down. So they're not keeping it as warm. She stays pretty steady at maybe, that might be 90 degrees. And then notice how the temperature drops down again, it gets cold. And now you should drop it down a little bit more. So as you go into winter, so this is October, and then here's November, it drops down even more, right? So she's really slowing down. But look at the upper brood box. It's above the outside temperature, but not by much. Does anybody know why? It's full of honey, actually. So I basically have a top box full of food, and the honey doesn't stay very warm, right? So it's chilly. So the bees are down below thermoregulating, but there's not much brood. It is, the temperature in the lower brood box is much higher than the actual temperature. But it's not up to brood zone anymore. The queen is really slowed down. This is December 1st. So what I'm looking for is the gap between the red and the blue, really, because the red is where the bees are. And you can see, look, December 1st, look at that gap. It starts to grow already. What does that mean? That means the queen is starting to lay a little more, which to me is pretty amazing. Isn't it supposed to be December, what is it, December 21st or something that they start turning on? But in this particular year, 2022, they were actually starting to increase laying in December. So what's nice is, you don't go into your bees during the winter. And I can just sit at home and look at my computer and say, oh, I know they're doing well. Well, hey, they're starting to lay. I don't have to go in. I just look at these temperatures and I can see the queen starting to pick up. So last year, if you remember, it was a super early spring. So you can see this is January right here, this mustache line, January 1st. I mean, they were going to town by February, they were back up in the brood zone, or just before February. I think our earliest swarm was like March 8th or something like that. So they were already hitting it, ready to roll, making brood again. And what I love is I don't have to go into my box really at all, and I don't have to worry, are they dead, are they alive? I don't see, are there a lot of bees coming in and out, or what's going on? I just see the temperature, and I know what's happening. Are there any questions? Yeah. Sorry, what?
Where are your hives?
My hives are in Holly Springs, North Carolina.
In North Carolina.
Yeah, yeah. And Five Counties is up in Zebulon. So I use this information to figure out when's a good time to use OA in the winter. You're supposed to hit with OA when there's the least brood possible. You can never predict, just like the stock market, what's the lowest point or not. But I've started to hit them in the first or second week in November. Because of this, I've seen it over a couple of years. November is the time when I hit them. Okay, so what about this year? How are we comparing? So this is this year, one of my hives. So I just give you an example. Actually the timing of the September drop was pretty much the same. They stayed a little bit, they were still producing. They started dropping off in November. This is November. Here's December 1. what's happening? So yellow is upper brood box. What do you notice happening here? They've moved up. Yep, they've moved from the lower box, they've gone up to the top box. So that's another cool thing that I can tell. I'm like, oh, hey, they're in my top box. And the way I know that if they're in the top box is because now the lower box is, the temperature is much closer to the ambient temperature. There's not as many bees in there. So I can already see what's going on. And what's wild is, okay, they're in the upper box, and then I forget when that was, mid-January, we had a warm spell. And they just started banging, going to town. Whereas last year, it was sort of a gradual up. This year, it was like, not much going on until it was going on. So let's see, I'm trying to think about when my first swarm's gonna be. I need to equalize some of my hives. But I think it's quite fascinating to be able to see this and see what's happening. Any questions? Go ahead.
One quick question.
Yep.
Slide 40, slide back there.
Yeah.
Okay, in January here, both years, both hives just spike in January, where they go back up to almost near brood temperature.
A spike in January when they do what?
Where you're going back to the brood zone,
Yeah.
okay? What, I'm just somewhat curious, on the top slide, where you have that spike in red, and you have the spike in
Right here.
further to the left,
Here.
right there, yes. What is the absolute outside temperature that got up to?
That is 65. Yeah, I've actually been doing a lot of that. It's like, what triggers them to go high or what triggers them to drop down, right? So here you can kind of see, okay, it's pretty high and then it hits a little bit of a low and they drop down. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that I look at these graphs and try to figure out.
Also, in that little, where you have that spike, what's the time frame? Go back to the spike, just illustrate for me.
This one,
Yes, and go back to the ambient temperature.
yes.
Okay,
Oh,
what
yeah,
is the time frame for that increase that you see there?
so this is a month from the big dash line. This is a week.
That's a week, so it's
So
several days.
it's probably like 2 or 3 days.
So you're
but-
essentially showing several days where you don't really have a drop in temperature.
Right, and they think it's time. And it happened right here too, right? There was no real low, it stayed high through the night, and they thought, okay, we're good. Time to produce. And anyway, this is how I spend my days in retirement. All right, so swarming, let's look at this. Temperature. Okay, again, the brood zone is a little bit hard to see, but this hive is straight, just straight. Whoop, all of a sudden there's a blip. And actually this indicates that Broodminder sent me a warning that said I had a temperature event. And you even see it in the lower, the upper brood box. But look at what happened to the weight. Whoop, they are gone. So let's take a closer look. This is a first-year beekeeper at 5 Counties. She was also a data nerd, so she bought these temperature sensors. And right around this time, she came to me and she said, "What are my hives? I think there's been some swarms." And I looked at her data. Look at this. There's the temperature event. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 temperature events. And here, this was she went in the hive and took the sensor out, so that's why you see that drop down. And then she put it back together. And then look what happens. It starts to come out of the brood zone. So it turns out she had 5 swarms. I'm predicting she didn't see them, she didn't have a scale, but I'm gonna guess she had 5 swarms. And so the primary swarm, April 28th, right? And then she had 4 more after swarms. And I'm telling you this because I see it all the time. And then I'll tell you the days. So notice the last virgin to leave, it was 14 days after the first queen left. And that makes about sense, right? Probably a 2-day-old egg was the last one they turned into a queen. And then when it starts to dip, the temperature starts to dip out of the brood zone. That's 20 days after the queen left. There's probably no more brood because she's gone. And here's a And you would expect it to drop off after 21 days, right? From the bee map that we have inside that cool card that John just gave us. But look at this, if I blow up, I'm just expanding that previous graph. So I'm changing so this is 92 to 98, so that you can see the temperature, the crazy temperature spike when they swarm. Isn't that wild? And then now I'm showing you, so we have all those swarms, and you can just sit back and watch them requeen or not requeen, right? So in this case, the temperature starts dropping because the queen hasn't been laying. But hopefully there's some virgin that came back and started laying. You can just see, oh, yep, they requeen themselves. So it's really easy to see whether you have a queen issue or not. And that's one of the real problems, I think, with a lot of losses of hives. There's some weird queen issues that we don't catch. And with the temperature sensor, you can catch them pretty easily. Yep. Well, that's a good question. We're working on that. Do they have to use sensors? They're trying to figure out how to predict it. We can tell you when you have one, right when you're having one. And if you have your cell phone, I run out and usually they're still swarming around the tree. And I have that swarm commander, you know, whatever, hit a little branch and try to get them above. In fact, I should have showed you a picture. I actually sprayed some swarm commander last year. It flew back on me and one of the swarms landed on me. I have it all over. I literally catch it jumping up and down on my box. It was really, it's an awesome picture. John's probably seen it. But anyway, so at least you know when you have them, but that's the next step actually, to feed this data into some sort of AI. Oh, this was my first year doing this. I wanted to see what happens if I just let it go. Let a hive go and just swarm. I want to see how many times they would do it. Because I couldn't believe how often they were swarming. Just like that other graph before. So I basically had 17.2 pounds total of bees and honey, I guess. Right? Because they take a lot of honey with them. So my first swarm was 4.6 pounds. You can see the spike. You know, see the spike before? I'm wondering if they did a trial run the day before. And I see that a lot. I see a little spike up. So I'm kind of thinking they might be doing trial runs on the day before, I'm not sure. I'm watching to see. But anyway, first swarm was, weight is in red. Yeah, let me start from the beginning. Black is temperature. Red is weight. And is there anything else? No. So the honey flow is on, right? Up. They brought in a lot of honey today. This is night, and then they took off 4.6 pounds. Then they're going up. The bees left are still bringing in nectar. Boom, 2.1 pounds. Another night, 2 days later, boom, 2.2 pounds. 2 days later, boom, 5.1 pounds. Like, oh, 1.9 pounds 2 days later, I think. And then finally one little teeny ball. And guess what? They didn't requeen themselves. They swarmed themselves out. So 6 swarms. So I contend that I have the world record for those swarms that can be. So that the previous girl in our club, she only had what? About 5. But I'm guessing that people have way more swarms than they know about. So, all right, so this warning mechanism that Broodminder gives you, it does give you false alarms. And here's an example where we get lots of false alarms. But I don't mind at all because I can look at that temperature data and I say, I know it's not a swarm. Because the swarm is just straight up and down. And I'm working with them trying to fix this algorithm to get rid of these kind of easy cases where you know they're not swarming. All right, so what else can we learn? I love this because this shows you, this was my 2023 honey crop. I think 9 hives I have here, and this is weight. And basically the way Broodminder does these graphs is, if here I'm graphing from Valentine's Day through May 15th. My honey flow is essentially over by May 15th. So they zero everybody out, so it's kind of nice because it doesn't matter if it's a big hive or a little hive, you can just see the changes from when you start. And this is from when I quit feeding, February 14th, Valentine's Day, I wasn't feeding anymore. So my top, the gray, the dark gray, and the green. Let me see, and the black, those 3 hives did not swarm. So my 3 honey producers, 3 big honey producers, did not swarm. And they were making, what is that, 180? That was the increase in weight over the season. The red hive, what's interesting about that is that hive swarmed, but I instantly requeened it. I threw another queen in there and I'm like, keep on going. So they didn't quite make it up to the no swarmers, but they did okay. Oh, sorry. So gray and green didn't swarm. The black one, if you look closely, I messed up. It was actually a swarm. I had a swarm on March 15th and I caught it. And it went to town. I put in drawn comb. So I caught it early, March 15th, threw a bunch of drawn comb in, and it did almost as well as my hives that didn't swarm. So those are my 3 big ones. 2 non-swarmers, a swarm, a primary swarm that I caught. And then this one is one that swarmed and I instantly replaced the queen, within a day. And then these were all my dogs, all the ones that kept swarming or whatever. So I love looking at this and saying, dang, I gotta stop them from swarming, or if they're gonna swarm, I gotta catch them.
Got a question?
Yes.
Your big producers, any hive configuration changes?
No, but just, I run, I think most of them last year were single. And I just pile on super on top of it. And I super early, like I already super 4, or I only have 6 this year, I'm kind of down. No, it's complicated. I'll get back to it bigger later. But anyway, yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. But swarming kills you, is the bottom line. And because I have them all on scales, it's easy for me. This is harvest day. So I can quickly see which hive, how much weight I pulled off. I love that. See who the big gainers are. Oh, here's a lesson I learned. Shoot. So I pull all the honey off and I harvest my honey. And then I put my supers out back, pretty far away from where my bees are. And it's the dearth, right? This is June. And look at, these are the weights. This is weights of all my hives. Weights in pounds, right? So they zero it out on June 9th. This line is the day I first put some supers out. I leak them out 2 or 3 at a time. Put 3 supers out, put 3 supers out, put 3 supers out. Look how much honey I left. I'm like, oh my God. This hive gained, these 2 top hives gained 3-4 pounds. I'm like, dang, I wasted a honey. Oh well. I didn't have to feed them, I guess. But anyway, I was shocked at how much honey that they got off those supers. Every time I put them out again, and again. I must put out more than I did in previous days. But still, I was like, ooh, I gotta keep my honey room so that I can get more honey out.
Go back to that slide, let me ask you a question.
You asked, John.
The bottom, below the black line there, where it looks like they're going negative.
Yeah.
Are those bigger hives?
No, I think they were weaker hives and they didn't figure it out. I did put them a little bit away, so they had to do a little reconnaissance. Anyway, this is back in the 5 County apiary. This is during the dearth. They were going out to feed one day, and I said to Tim, the guy who runs it, I said, wait a minute, look at the scales. And we had a flow that we did not know anything, that we were not expecting. We have not had a summer flow. So Tim drove around, there was some cotton fields near us, which there usually aren't. So we could quickly see this and say, wait a minute, we don't need to feed. And it wasn't a bad little flow. It started August, I don't know, 12th maybe. And some of them gained 27 pounds. Oh, this is what I really love, and it's not that easy to do, but I like to compare year. I want to be able to compare year over year what was the flow like. And so what I've done for the last 2 years is taken my top colony that didn't swarm and put their weight. So I can't remember. Oh, this is, so the red one, no, blue one was 2022. So, and I don't start the graph, I only start when I quit feeding, right? So I was still feeding in 2022, I was still feeding up until mid-February probably. And then you can see we had a maple flow, right? The blue one. So they were gaining weight, but then it got really cold. And they ate it all, they had to eat it all back, right? And then April took off again. Whereas last year, 2023, the red, I quit feeding them even earlier, and they just kept bringing in stuff. It didn't get that cold. I think we had one little cold spell right here, and then they just kept going again. So last year was a much better flow than the previous year. And I think it's kind of fun to look and see. Like right now, everything's blooming my way, red maple, and they're gaining a little bit. I think today I looked 0.3, 0.2. A couple of my bigger hives are still down 0.2 or 0.3, but that's much, they're much less down than they are usually. So something's happening. All right, so robbing events. You can catch robbing events easily. You can know when your hives die. So here's 2 examples of 2 different colonies that got robbed out. So this one, the red is the lower brood box. It was doing okay through July, and then it started getting a little wiggly. See, you can tell they're getting weak, right? By how it starts to go up and down. Weak, and then some crash and burn. And I saw them actually getting robbed out right around here. So I don't know if they were just dying, the dwindling, the mite load too high, or what, and that incited the robbing or what. This hive was, I think, I don't know if it was a nuke, so it had a different temperature signature. It didn't look very strong at all to begin with, but here you can see the temperature went sky high, and then it's basically tracking the ambient temperature. So they were dead. So it's really easy to see when your hives die. And so I tell everybody, these temperature sensors, you'll never have wax balls again if you're paying attention. And you see them dying. You go out there and get your frames out before the wax balls get them. All right, robbing. This was Happy Hunting Hills in the dirt again. And what I love is you can see who the robber is as well as who got robbed. Normally you just see the one that dies, right? But with these scales, I'm like, oh, that little son of a gun. Got it. And that's actually the most important thing to know, because they'll crash later if you don't test them for mites. Because usually they're bringing home all the bad stuff. Oh, this happened in my yard this year. In fact, I was thinking, wait, is cotton blooming? In one day, I read my sensors. My yard gained 44 pounds, my whole yard. And I have scales under everybody now. I hate to say I'm spoiled rotten. One hive gained 18 pounds, another one, so nobody lost. So I knew they weren't robbing somebody in my yard. They found there's somebody in the hood that is not keeping bees. And I'm guessing the next day they got 12.8. And then on the 8th of August, it was done. But I'm guessing somebody had a super, what is that, 57 pounds of honey that got brought back to my house. I actually called this one neighbor to see have you looked at your bees lately? He's like, I'm on vacation. I said, oh, I'll have a good time. I know nothing. Anyway, yeah.
Go back to that, because so you had seen when they were on the vineyard, it was really only one colony around another. Whereas that was a whole bunch of them getting a little bit. So for me, I would think somebody needs some feeding, and they can all get it equally versus a true rock.
Yeah, do you think my neighbor would put out 55 pounds, 57 pounds of something for me? That's a lot of weight.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you'd already seen. that
Yeah,
rock,
yeah,
it's not like
yeah.
every colony getting up.
Yeah. Well, you know what's,
That's because of the problem thing, so all of them getting just a little bit each.
well, I was getting a little bit crowded in my yard, and I'm wondering, I mean, how did they all find out? Because the guy's far away, but I think, yeah, yeah.
Something else. in there.
Yeah.
Where they could all equally get to something that's pretty good.
Oh, you would.
18 pounds.
Probably meant in my acre, typically the method of stopping, is put a whole feed on them, so they can get all they want. Put 5 gallons.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to know what really was happening, but I was the beneficiary, except for my mites have never been worse as they were this summer. So whether they were over getting mites and honey, or I don't know if it's related or not. Anyway, one thing that I've been a little bit obsessed about is what I call the daily pattern of weights. Because sometimes it's so clear, the daily pattern. So this is the weight of the hive. Look at this. This is night. Early morning, sun comes up, whoop, they go out. Start bringing it in. Whoop. Back all the way up. So you can see the honey flow is on. The weight is going up. This is right at dusk. Every night. So it's going up, but I'm like, this is fast. So actually I started reading the literature, the scientific literature, and they call this the breakfast trough. It's the foragers going out to get food, right? So as soon as the sun's up, they're out of there. They go get the food, start bringing it in. Does anybody know what this is? I'll give you a hint. September. Anyway, it's usually 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon. Orientation flights. Because in the beginning, I was like, what is happening? It's orientation flights. And I still don't understand why it drops that far, but that's definitely what was going on. I verified that. How about the daily pattern during the dearth? Again, nighttime, why is night just a straight line? Huh?
They're eating something.
Yeah, they're eating something and it's just probably proportional to how many bees are in there. And it's just kind of a straight line.
Aren't they evaporating the water out?
And they're also evaporating the honey, dehydrating the honey. In fact, I did a study where I looked at the slope of that line and tried to predict what it would be based on how much they gained the previous day. But anyway, but you're right. They're also dehydrating honey. Or nectar, sorry. So again, we have our morning trough. And here it goes up, there's a little dip and then back up. Here, big dip. No dip. Maybe this is just siesta actually. But every other day, you can actually tell, every other day they're orienting. So during the dearth, you can see the queen is slowed down, they're not orienting every day. Here they just come home for lunch, I think. I don't know. But I look at that and I'm obsessing on what the heck's going on? Why? Yeah, go for it.
It looks like a week of really nice sunny weather too.
Yeah. You think? Why do you say that?
They're always going out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think you can see how big the hive is really by how much if a pound goes out or a pound and a half goes out. So it's pretty cool. Oh, and then last year I started to notice, wait a minute, I was having a double hump day. And I was like, what? What is going on? So this is is the best looking graph, but this is the night. They go out, come right back in, go out, hump down again, go down again, and then back, night. So it's double humps. I think, yeah, there it is. I tried to smooth it so you can get an idea about what's happening. Anybody have any ideas? How about if I told you that, okay, 5:15 a.m. is the breakfast trough. What is the date? July 2nd. 5:15, they're going out, the weight's dropping. 7:15 is the first peak. 7:15, what kind of food's available at 7:15? What are they doing? This is a hint. Huh?
Buckwheat.
I wish it was buckwheat, but I didn't grow any buckwheat. It's water. It was super hot. And I think they're in there, it's probably hotter than heck in the hot. This is what I'm imagining. It's hotter than hell in there. And as soon as the sun comes out, we're like, get the water, boys. We need to cool it down. They haul out. And actually, when I went to EAS, the Eastern Apiculture Society meetings, and Tom Seeley was giving a talk about water foragers and water carriers. And I showed him this graph, and he was like, they're getting water. He couldn't believe that you could see it on a scale. So he was really surprised that I was picking it up. So they're basically going out for water. Because he said there wouldn't be any nectar at 7:15. He didn't think anyway. So anyway, these are things I learned just by hanging out with my data. All right, this is a cool thing that I just figured out this year, because now I have more scales. And by the way I get these scales is there was that hive scale project a long time ago where everybody got, a bunch of people in North Carolina got solution bee scales, and then they all broke. And I figured out how to fix them and conferred to Broodminder. And actually somebody's gonna bring me 4 more of them, and I already have more than I need, but I said, I'll bring them. And then I'll figure out whether we put them in our aviary or maybe your aviary needs a scale or 2. But anyway, so now all my hives are on scales. So now I'm overlaying just one day. Here's the breakfast trough. And then they're bringing it in. So there's not much of a flow going on, but this is a one day's worth of data. So I just graph all my hives right on top of each other. Which one's the strongest one? Yup, the red one. They got more foragers going out. They lose the most weight. Red, blue, green, in that order. So if you look at temperature of those same hives, red and blue, they're in the brood zone. And the other ones are, I think the other ones are actually single deeps. The red and blue are double deeps. So I'm not telling you all the information, but you can still tell they're stronger. They got more bees. All right, this was an example. So I'm analyzing the 5 county data, and we have how many scales? We have 5 or 6 scales, however many that is. And I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, everything was going down last February. And I look at mine, and I'm like, oh, Holly Springs, I'm in the hot spot. So beekeeping is very location specific. So when your friend tells you, oh, my hives are going up, just say, well, you live where you live. I'm doing me, you do you. Because I think that's a big part of it, depends on where you live. And I'm kind of surprised Holly Springs is going up, but it's all they're doing is growing houses. But I guess they're planting some things. Yeah, so this is just showing you how many miles apart. I'm 37 miles from our apiary. This is where I'm living, down by Sharon Harris. They're up there. Okay, now, mite treatment. I have no idea how much time I'm allowed. Am I supposed to?
Time you need.
I don't know. I'll try to do it. This is some cool stuff. What's the effect of mite treatments on your hive? What happens when you throw some poison on them? Let me see. Single strip formic pro on these 2 hives. So I put, see this little hive tool? That's when I put the formic pro on. Just a single strip. The upper brood box and the lower were in the brood zone. They were cranking along. And remember, I put it on the top. the upper brood box, right? The yellow one. Look at the thermoregulation. Whoop, they go out of whack. They're like, what is this? The temperature really starts swinging. The lower brood box wasn't as affected. And it took a while. It starts to go up. It's getting a little better. 9 days later.
Strange question.
Yes, I like strange questions.
The yellow line, it's zigzagging, is that the nurse bees? Some of them are leaving the hive or going out of the hive and they're coming back? Do you know?
I don't know. Yes. I don't know what's happening. You're talking about this?
Yeah.
That might be the sensor acting a little weird.
Okay.
Sometimes the sensor's acting weird. Here's another hive that the upper, I only have to have one sensor in this one on the upper brood box. And you can see it does recover by the 10 days later. It's back to thermoregulated like it was before. Okay, now I'm going to show you, I treated with Apivar, and then I tested and I still had mites in a lot of my hives. So I went back to Formic Pro. It was finally getting cool enough. So what I'm going to show you here is, let's see, 2 double deeps. So the red and the black are 2 different hives. This is the temperature in the lower brood box. Before I put the Formic Pro, I put the Formic Pro on the black hive only. I don't treat the red hive. So I have a control and a treatment kind of thing. So nobody has anything. And then I throw Formic Pro on the black hive. So you can see again, it throws off the thermoregulation. Here's another example of single deep. So again, the temperature signature looks very different in my single deeps. But I have 2 hives here, the pink and the blue hive. I picked them so that they're doing exactly the same thing before I put the treatment on. So they're doing exactly the same thing. I put the treatment on the blue one at this point. And again, right, it starts behaving differently. So the thermoregulation gets messed up. But what is even more interesting is the weight. What happens to the weight? So remember the red and the black one? They were going up. I treated, and the weight, they get all messed up. So what do you think's happening? What's your prediction? Chris, what do you think? Think the foragers are staying home? I don't know. Fanning like crazy, so they're not bringing in anything? I don't know what's happening. But basically they don't, they lose weight, they're just eating. Or maybe they're consuming a lot more because they're fanning like crazy. I don't know. Or maybe what? Yeah, maybe. And you can kind of see they start to recover to a more usual pattern. In, I think it's 5 days they start to recover. So here's the single deeps. This one I had just fed the blue one right before I treated. And then I treated, and literally from the, actually it wasn't that many days, the 18th through the 23rd, and then it starts looking normal again. How many days is that? 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 5 days. Yeah? Question? No.
Is that Formic Pro you're still talking about?
Yep, single strip. I can't imagine what would happen if I did a double. I'm going to skip this one. Scouting is real though. I used to think that's total BS. Because I think usually what happens is the colony is just shrinking, dwindling. But anyway, we'll talk about that later, another day. Here's a case where I was surprised in the summer how hard, especially the single deeps, they have a very hard time thermoregulating. And the temperature
temperatures get quite hot, 105. If you read the literature, they don't want the temperatures to go over 98. It's not very good for the hive. And I'm like, man, my hives are getting hot. So on this particular day where you see a hive tool, I threw on some insulation on top, just a pink sheet of insulation under the cover, and it really helped them out.
Sheet of what?
Insulation. So I do that regularly now, because it gets hot in North Carolina. I think they have a hard time thermoregulating. Okay, here's, I did a little test. I went to EAS and I met this guy who makes the Hive IQ, the Australian dude. He gave me a hive, because he knew I was into sensors. He said, take one of these home, put your sensors in it, and let me know how it does. So I'm gonna compare the Hive IQ with the wooden box, the Langstroth. And the day I converted my wooden box to the Hive IQ was the day of the robbery. And the day of the robbery, which you'll see, it was so freaking hot, and there's so many bees outside. It was absolutely amazing. So this is a day difference, the same colony. Insulated hive versus wooden box. That's a little extreme, but anyway, so here's my experiment. This is when I'm going to convert that one to the Hive IQ. So the pink one or the red one is, what's called pink. Pink one's going to be converted to the Hive IQ, the insulated box. The black one is staying in the wooden box. They're both double deeps. They both have the same approximately the same health. And you can see before, they are having trouble thermoregulating when you blow it up. They're not keeping it straight at 95. And particularly the red one was having a very hard time. It was getting hot. The day of the robbery, the day they were all hanging out outside, it was 104 degrees inside. So that was the day of the picture, with all up on the outside. So I convert the red one to the insulated box. And now look, now the red one stayed much steadier than the black one. So I kind of like the idea of insulating in North Carolina in the summer. So here's the same, the red is the insulated one, the black is the wooden one. And this is in November. So this is what the differences look like in November. The insulated hive is a lot warmer and less fluctuating than the black one. Okay, so what have I learned? I'm almost done. Oh, no, this is, yeah. So throughout time, I've had sensors from different companies. So this is just, I'm telling you some things that have been headaches for me. You can definitely, there's so many sensors available that you can put this kind of sensor measuring temperature and another scale. But in the end, you want to see them all together on a graph, right? And so it was such a headache to like download the data from all my different sensors and then put them, I mean, even though I use SAS, put them in SAS and then graph whatever I wanted to. But now I'm a true believer in the broodminder system because they have an easy way of just combining everything in one graph. And to me, that's critical. And so it's something to think about if you're going to go and get sensors. And the other thing I want to point out is the broodminder system now, you can actually buy external sensors, not their sensors. And they have a way of bringing that data into their system. So they have their software for analyzing the data is like miles ahead of anybody's software if you're interested in getting into the sensor game. And you can even take your weird sensors that you want to buy that are cheaper and bring them into the broodminder system. And by the way, I don't work for broodminder. They're not paying me. I just hassle them when things are wrong. And the other thing you should pay attention to if you get into buying sensors is we do so much shuffling around. Hives die, right? You have a scale under one of your hives and it dies, and then you put it under another hive, and then put it under another hive. And with a lot of companies, I was just like renaming my scale. Oh, it's under Alice. Oh, now it's under Polly. Now it's under, and then you want to look back to see what Alice did, and you can't remember which one used to be called Alice, right? So it's very hard. Whereas again, the broodminder system has come up with a great way of just reassigning so that you can see the historical data. So that's just a pet peeve of mine. It makes it much easier to analyze the data. All right, here's management changes since I started monitoring. I put insulation under my tops in the summer. Now I know who swarmed, who attempted to swarm, and when. And bees swarm way more than you ever thought they did. Pretty much guarantee you. And I've also caught way more swarms than I've ever caught. My sensors have paid for themselves for sure. And another thing that I've learned, you know, a hive would swarm and I would go in and check the queen cells and cull it down to 1 or 2, put it back together, and I think, oh, cool. And then next thing I know, they're still swarming. I'm like, what? So now I go in 4 or 5 days after they swarm. I wait to go in and cull all the swarm cells, because if you take all the swarm cells, they're going to keep making more swarm cells while the eggs are around, right? So anyway, that was a stupid thing that I wasn't doing right until I saw it on my sensors. I'm like, oh wait, I need to go in 4 or 5 days after the swarm, and then figure out what I'm going to do with all the swarm cells that they've made. See how many I'm going to leave them, because they will keep swarming. Let's see. Oh, I know when I need to go in follow-up inspection. I know if they're not re-cleaning themselves. And I know one thing that's really important is I know whether it's a primary swarm or a secondary swarm. Those primary swarms are awesome. Secondary swarms take a little longer to get going. But it's good to know so you don't expect brood right away. And typically I'm going in and OAing. If I catch a swarm, I'll OA them before they cap their the brood cells. So it's nice when I know whether it's a primary swarm or a secondary swarm. I heed signals of problems. I mean, it's plain as day when I have a queen issue, I gotta go in and do something. I can't say, oh, maybe next weekend or maybe. So I can typically find robbing events quite easily. It's easy to see who the weak hives are, who I have to go in and check. And it's easy if doing splits and all that. It's really fun and easy to just look at the temperatures to see how things are going. I don't inspect colonies that are super soft, super strong. Sometimes, you know, at one point I was up to like 25, 26. I would say, oh, I'm not even gonna go in there. I know they're doing great. I should harvest my honey in a heated room rather than in my basement. But I don't know, man. Anyway, I don't have wax moth issues anymore. And I know when I can and should OA. The painful side of monitoring, batteries, keeping track. And broodminder will send you a warning who has low batteries, but I tend to ignore them, and then I go out and, yeah, anyway. It's a pain. And just watching the hives does create anxiety. Like now, are they gonna swarm? God. Anyway, sometimes ignorance is bliss. I'm joking about that. Anyway, so that's it. Oh, but what is next in the hive monitoring world? Actually, broodminder is working on, rather than just collecting data, they're gonna start sending, since they can tell when hives swarm, they're gonna start sending messages like 4 days after a swarm, did you go in? Maybe you better go look, hello? Unless you want more swarms. I mean, you could turn it off, but that's what they're trying to shoot for, some sort of system where they should be re-cleaned by now, she should be laying. You know, like a little guardian angel on your shoulder telling you to get in there, which I think would be really cool. Now that we can tell what's happening better, just if people want to know some management hints. Anyway, so that's it. Okay. May?
When you see that it's already built up in February and March, do you go
go in and do any manipulation, like rotate the hive boxes? Do you do a different methods?
Yeah, well, I'm sitting here thinking about what I'm gonna do. I need to get into them, and I was thinking about getting in and balancing. I know who my weak
Because
hive.
if we're a history to look at, you sort of know what's gonna happen, so if you're ready, because there goes your money from.
Right, right. So I'm gonna go in and balance, probably this week. Try to balance my nuclear hives, because there's some that are like flatlining already in the brood zone, but I know it's just trouble's waiting to happen.
The second question I have is about how you display the top of your hive. You don't use an inner cover.
No, I do. I just lay it right on top of the inner cover, put the pellets
Cover and then put the other
Yeah,
cover.
it's not that pretty, but yeah.
And is it that foam?
Yeah, that pink foam or green foam. Yeah,
Would it not work with scope on top?
maybe.
You gotta put it up beside it.
Oh, cold weather and everything will get to it, but
Well, I use, stick college fabric.
that would work. They definitely get hot though. Anybody else? I'm giving the same talk at the NTSBA meeting, so you can skip on Saturday afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess right now we, maybe I need to put my glasses on so I can read it. Next thing up is farm report.
I hope everyone who ordered their fruit and nut trees was able to pick them up and get those planted this week. Right now, we're still waiting to see what the weather's gonna do for the next couple of weeks before we can really make any decisions, but I know that, there are starting to plant in some tobacco greenhouses and some greenhouse crops are gonna start taking off here soon. And hopefully if it warms up anytime soon, some things start blooming and we'll be able to start getting in the ground a little bit. That's really all I've got.
Okay, thank you so much. Bee school this weekend, if you signed up to help, please come help. If you're a student, please come learn. We're having a certification test on March 25th, on March 21st at JCC, Seattle. And that's dependent on how much room that Chris has in the classroom. Okay. And the reason Alan's not here doing this tonight is he's out of town traveling, so I told him I'd cover it. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. Let's see. Jason, you're up.
Hi, everybody, Jason Burke. As some of you may know, the club does sell honey. We've got some different events that we bottle of honey, we sell honey. We're looking for 2 buckets of honey. If anybody has a bucket of honey that they're willing to part with, let me know, and we can find out how much you want for it. Because we do want to sell the club honey first before we go to an outside source. But if anybody does have a bucket, please let me know.
Thank you. Our bank balance is $10,946.40 as of this past weekend. We've got 2 speaking opportunities. See me concerning the Watkins Chapel Baptist Church. If you want to do that, there's approximately 40 kids there. And then see Rick Ivy if you want to do the Powhatan Elementary School. Pardon me.
Kids or phones?
No, I don't know, someone in here sent me stuff. Okay. Anyone working on their journeyman or master level beekeepers, if you need to do a club presentation, see Terry Richards, let her know. I'm sure she probably has some opportunities. Next month, Nathan Adams is gonna talk to us about swarms. April, we got bee school follow-up, question and answer session. And I don't know if anybody's talked to Jason about the date change, but if that's good with him, May runs. And, so April report, Rick or Hannah or both? Tell us what's going on.
So this last week we did inspection on Five Counties. All but 3 of them registered 100 grow lights. That was a really good count coming out in the winter. Today, Rick and I treated 4 hives with 4 crow, just 1 strip. We have 1 hive that didn't have a queen, but we put a frame of eggs in there, so we'll check on that hopefully this coming week to see if they make some. And then we have 1 other hive that we think we have a new queen. We're gonna check and see if we can see more eggs in it to go. So the next tentative apiary inspection day should be next week. This week, but next week on Thursday, weather permitting. Like to see out there more.
And your new beekeepers, this is where you learn, because if you only got 1 or 2 hives, it may take you years to see, but they have 14 hives here. So when you go out, you're gonna see a variety of things, like a couple weeks ago when we did the inspection, one of the hives I inspected had no brood in it, so we knew we needed a queen. So there's opportunities. We've seen all sorts of interesting things in the apiary. And we've got 2 experienced beekeepers back there. Let's see. Beekeeper's Corner. This is what I'll say. As far as I'm concerned, spring started at the end of January. I went into a hive January 28th at my house, and it had 1 frame of brood, and I was very worried about the hive. When Anna and I went back into it on Friday, it had almost 8 frames of brood. It was a single deep, and they're about out of food. So things build up really fast. You can run out of food really quick. You need to go by and heft your hives. We've got 2 scales here you can check out. Weigh the hives if you want to do that. But you need to stay on top of it. You need to feed them if they need it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your hive. And most of the hives are lost from now to mid-March. So stay on top of that. The other thing is swarming season is going to start early. Get your swarm boxes up. Keep an eye on your hives. If the hive becomes honey bound, I mean, there's nectar coming in some locations. You're going to have problems in March. Just keep an eye on your hives. Make sure that the swarming issue isn't going to get you. You want to get on the swarm list. See Adam Pendergrass to get you on the swarm list. And Ron, did I miss anything? Anything important I should have said?
Me?
Yeah.
I saw the first charts queen cells today. They were about, from egg, about 1 or 2 days beyond the egg, that they were fully in the royal jelly. So 2 weeks, you will start seeing a lot of swarms, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. Meg? Yes, we do have room for students. I'm going to give a number to Daniel tonight for food, but we're gonna take a few. We're gonna get a little extra food just in case we get students. Right now, I think we're around 40 or 41. So there's room. Anybody, Karen?
You will be seeing an email from me from the program manager that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. We are really in need of people to volunteer to teach some schools. We're actually having to turn things down. We don't have the teachers. So your vast experience or new experience is going to be beneficial to all these kids that we're teaching. And the state fairgrounds in the fall when we take care of them and food and stuff. We really need everyone to get involved because right now we not enough. So we want to build our organization. So we start seeing a survey about availability and whatnot coming out. So we're trying.
Okay, backing up a little bit, I handed out cards this evening for all the new beekeepers that has QR codes on there. The first QR code is for the Healthy Honeybee Coalition. It's a decision tree. If you're a new beekeeper and you need to treat for mites, go through that. It'll probably take you half an hour or more to go through it, but it'll help you make a decision. It'll give you limitations on your treatments. So that's a important thing. The next thing is the Drift Watch QR code where you can go register your hives so that it's registered for pesticide spray. On the back side of the second page is the bee inspectors QR codes. Do not be scared of the bee inspectors. If you have a problem, you reach out to us and we can't help you, we'll probably tell you to contact the bee inspector. I had a pesticide kill about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and one of the people in the neighborhood, there was 20 hives affected, called the bee inspector, and they came out and, helped us. But they won't eat you, so they're good people. Next thing on here is the calendar. It's been revised. So you need to put this on your refrigerator. As things change, we revise it every month. It's on the last 2 pages. So, just be aware of what's going on. Biggest thing we got is the build day on March 23rd. This is where you can bring your new equipment out. We can help you assemble it, put wax in it, that type of stuff. Please participate. If you need help, let us help you. We'll help you get your equipment assembled correctly. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about? Suggestions, concerns?
I just have a quick question. So a place that I was thinking about putting hives, somebody invited me to put a couple of hives, it's near a sorting. And I just, some things I know about pesticides and how much pesticide is there, the sorting is about. Is that
They typically, I wish Seth was still in here. Typically Roundup's the biggest thing in soybeans. And what you need to do is make sure your hive's not right next to the field or it's facing away so that they spray. Typically they try to spray in the afternoons. But you need to just talk to the farmer about what he's spraying. Also make sure he has your phone number, so if he's got the spray, he can call you and tell you so you can close up your hive. And he's gonna, if he has a pest problem, it's gonna happen fast. So he's gonna need to take action. It's just like anything else. A couple of days is not timely with pests. So he's gonna want to spray right away. Just make sure he's got a good phone number. But you need to talk to him about what you're gonna do. You all come to some sort of meeting of minds. A little bit of honey helps too. Well, it would probably be just that evening. But it depends on the pesticide. If he tells you what the pesticide is, you can look at the label. And you can call up here and someone can talk to you about the pesticides. Call the front desk and Sharon or Jennifer will get you the right person that knows about those pesticides.
Roundup spray is early on.
And you can get some good nectar off soybeans sometimes. Last year was an acceptable use for me. Anybody else?
Newburgh Conference.
Yep. State Beekeepers Association Newburgh Conference is the 7th? 7th, 8th, and 9th. If you're gonna go, you need to register and come out, have a good time. Well, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting.
Well, next week, yeah, like I'm leaving there.
Please, folks, before everybody runs off to go home, we need to clean up these round tables and